At 5 feet 10 and fighting at 155 pounds, Khabib Nurmagomedov wasn't the biggest or flashiest fighter in MMA history, but even more than his undefeated record of 29-0, his 3 title defenses, and his dominant reign as UFC lightweight champion. Khabib was something else entirely. He was inevitability. He didn't just beat opponents. He broke them mentally, exhausted them physically, and made elite fighters look like amateurs. Inside the octagon, and even in a sport filled with knockout artists and submission specialists, Khabib stood alone as the most dominant grappler the UFC had ever seen. In this video, we'll talk about Khabib's prime years, how he came from the mountains of Dagestan to dominate the toughest division in MMA, and how he reached fighting immortality without ever losing a round on the scorecards in his prime. And it all started long before the UFC, when Khabib was just a kid growing up in Dagestan. He wasn't training in fancy gyms or under bright lights. He was wrestling bears, literally under the guidance of his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, a legendary coach and strict disciplinarian. Khabib was raised in a system built on sambo wrestling and relentless discipline. There were no shortcuts, no off days, and no excuses by the time he entered professional MMA. Khabib already had a style that most fighters simply couldn't deal with. He would pressure you, close the distance, take you down, and once you were on the ground, there was no escape. It wasn't just wrestling. It was control, suffocating pressure, and a pace that drained your soul. When Khabib entered the Ultimate Fighting Championship in 2012, the lightweight division was stacked with killers. But from his very first fights, it was clear this guy was different. He ragdolled opponents, slammed them repeatedly, and talked to them while doing it. You have to give up. That was Khabib's mindset. He wasn't looking for a lucky knockout. He was looking to dominate every second of every round. One of the first signs of his greatness came against Rafael dos Anjos, a future champion. Khabib didn't just win, he controlled him for 3 rounds, outstruck him and outgrappled him, proving he could beat elite competition with ease. But injuries and long layoffs stalled his rise, and for nearly 2 years, Khabib disappeared from the spotlight. Many wondered if he would ever reach his full potential. But when he returned, he was even better, stronger, more focused, and absolutely unstoppable by the time he fought Al Iaquinta for the undisputed lightweight title. In 2018, Khabib was already feared as the most dominant grappler in the sport, and in that fight, he showcased something new: patience. He didn't just wrestle. He outboxed Iaquinta for long stretches, proving he was evolving into a complete fighter. Khabib became the undisputed champion. But his prime, his true peak, came right after, when he faced Conor McGregor in one of the biggest fights in combat sports history. This wasn't just a fight. It was personal, months of trash talk, insults, and chaos built up to this moment. And when the cage door closed, Khabib did exactly what he always did. He dominated. He took McGregor down, mauled him, and even dropped him on the feet before submitting him in the 4th round. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Khabib wasn't just the best lightweight in the world, he was on another level. And then came Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, 2 of the most dangerous fighters in the division. Both were interim champions, both were known for their toughness and striking power, and both were finished by Khabib. Poirier was submitted. Gaethje was submitted. And Gaethje had never even been taken down like that before. In fact, during his prime, Khabib barely lost rounds. His control time was absurd. His takedown accuracy was elite. And once he got you to the ground, it was over. Fighters knew what was coming and still couldn't stop it. But what made Khabib truly special wasn't just his skill. It was his discipline. He didn't drink. He didn't party. He didn't cut corners. Everything in his life revolved around becoming the best fighter possible. And that mindset showed every time he stepped into the octagon, even when dealing with personal tragedy like the passing of his father. Khabib stayed focused long enough to complete his mission. After defeating Gaethje in 2020, he retired undefeated 29-0 as the undisputed lightweight champion. And just like that, he was gone. No decline, no losses, no what-ifs, just dominance. Now critics will say he didn't have as many title defenses as other champions. Others will say his style wasn't exciting compared to knockout artists. But here's the reality. Nobody solved him. Nobody came close. And in a sport where anything can happen, Khabib made it look easy. He turned chaos into control and elite fighters into helpless opponents. So how good was Prime Khabib? He was one of the most dominant athletes in combat sports history. A fighter who perfected his style to the point where it felt unfair, and a champion who walked away at the top, undefeated, unmatched, and unforgettable. Thanks for watching.